This is a follow-up to the previous video where I dyno the Mini V12 to see how much horsepower it makes. If you haven't seen that video already, I suggest you watch that video before you watch this one. I'll leave a link in the description. I'm gonna open up this engine so we can see all the internal parts and see what damage was done during that dyno run. Just to make sure 100% that this engine is in fact damaged, I'm gonna start it up real quick and see if it'll run at all. And then I'm gonna proceed to tear the entire engine down. Let's try this again. Definitely sounds like some compression issues. Sounds like a train engine or something. Yeah, let's proceed and rip it apart. See, I think this is part of the problem and this is the reason it's overheating. This is the coolant line going into the water pump. This is only a 4mm ID, 6mm OD. Look at that little tiny water pump and that inlet. This is a 50cc V12, a beast. This needs some serious cooling. At least that's what I think, and that's what I'm finding, and I think that's why it overheated. Yep, definitely some internal damage. Smells like old lawnmower oil. At least we know the engine didn't run out of oil. It holds 40 milliliters, and this is about 25 milliliters, so that's not too bad. But if you look in there, there's definitely a lot of metal and other stuff in that oil. Check that out. We should send this to Project Farm for oil analysis. This is it. The Mini V12. I should have done a compression test before removing the starter, but honestly, I don't think each one of these cylinders has enough volume to move a compression tester. Oh, what was that? Uh-oh. A whole bunch of little balls just fell out. Oh, I guess those are the lifter balls. They go inside there. Check that out. It's like a little pinball machine. We're only missing one more. Oh, there it is. Look at that gasket. That is handmade for sure. Oh, there you go. That's the tiny little manifold. Ooh, look at those holes. That's cutting off a good, what, 20–30% of the opening? If you look at that hole, it looks like it's centered with the intake holes. That looks symmetrical to me. But if we look at the block, we can see that those holes are offset. That's a lot of head bolts, actually. Let's pop that off. Oh, that came right off. Ooh, look at that. I already see a bunch of blow-by. Yeah, I definitely see some blow-by in there. Let's take a look at the bottom of the head. A couple of those valves are different colors. Yeah, interesting. Here's the thing, right, is that all these valves are closed on this side. The head is untouched. I haven't touched anything here. All the valves are closed. When I rotate this, I should have some resistance or some compression on the other 6 cylinders on the other side, but I don't know, this is turning pretty easy, and that's telling me that these piston rings might not be the best. I really don't have much compression at all. I mean, I'm turning this super easy. And I do see some little, like, I don't know, metal particles or something on the pistons, and I definitely saw some metal in that oil. I was gonna say, hopefully that didn't break the crankshaft. Decent flywheel, little like insignificant magnets. This here is the starter gear, and here's the starter clutch. Moves one away and it doesn't move the other. Underneath that flywheel is not only the starter gear, but also this little, I don't know what you would call this little boss that's kind of connected to the crankshaft, which only looks like it's about 1/4 of an inch wide. I don't see how this is supposed to apply any sort of power or run anything, because this is the connection from the flywheel to the crankshaft with 3 set screws around the perimeter. Yeah, I don't like that design at all. If in a perfect world this engine made any sort of power, that would be the problem right there. This crankshaft would definitely spin inside of this, which is why they put 3 set screws loaded with Loctite that I can't even get out. I just don't like that design. I can't get these set screws out. But this connection point to me, I see why they did this because they have the starter clutch behind there, but this to me is sort of cheesy. This is kind of like they machined it, put it together, cross their fingers and close their eyes and hope for the best. Because if this engine made any substantial torque, that crankshaft is gonna spin inside of that ring that holds the flywheel. Yeah, I don't like that. What do you think? It's like jammed in between there. Looks like there's 6 journals and 12 cylinders. So they just joined up 2 connecting rods per journal here. It's quite a bit of slop there. That might be that little chain sound that I'm hearing. I think it's just gonna be a compression issue. I'm gonna pull these pistons out and take a look. I bet you they just have inferior ring design. I mean, this is pretty small. I don't know why they make such a small engine. They should do this like 150 cc's or 200 cc's. It would probably be a lot more successful. Wow, that wasn't very tight. Check that out. The cap, it's just machined and it's right on the crankshaft. There's no bearings. It's interesting. This looks very steam engine-like. It looks like they just took one solid bar and machined it. I don't know why they don't have a hub on the back side of the flywheel the same size as this disc that's serving as the bearing. I mean, that's pretty hefty. This actually has a bearing in there. There's like a little sleeve bearing, but the journals don't have any sort of bearings. Maybe they were in a hurry. Now things are starting to make sense. This is one of the pistons. Things are starting to make a little bit of sense now. There's just like one rubber ring, which is probably for the oil, and there's one compression ring. I can totally see why this thing lost compression over time. This ring is just wearing down, and that gap is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and that compression is getting lower and lower and lower. I don't know if this engine's actually gonna see the light of day again. I don't see how I can repair that unless I get some new rings from the manufacturer and re-ring this entire engine. I'm gonna think of some options. Also, this head gasket doesn't look the best. This is just sort of like a compressed paper. I think I would do this a little bit different, maybe a sheet of copper. Let me know what you think in the comments. I don't really like this compressed paper. I have a feeling that top piston ring isn't doing anything. Oh yeah, that top piston ring is loose. Yeah, definitely. I could feel the rubber ring is sealing, but that top piston ring, yeah, it's not doing anything. That makes sense. You can see the only thing that was sealing this, that little bit of paper that's compressed right on that sleeve. Check that out, look at that. Well, at least it's sleeved. I mean, the engine looks like it's built pretty good. I don't know about those water jackets. You see those grooves running through there? It's kind of like how the Supra does it. They have an open deck where they have the water jackets running around the cylinders. The water jacket's only going that deep. Like a quarter of the depth of the cylinder. I don't know how much cooling that's gonna do. I mean, that would make a lot of sense as to why it was overheating, because if that water jacket is only cooling a quarter of the depth of the cylinder, literally, that little part right there was the only thing sealing that cylinder from the water jacket. Oh, look at that ring gap. Like, I don't know if you could see that. No, that's a huge ring gap. Right before it came out of the cylinder, I could see the ring gap was like a 32nd of an inch maybe. I mean, that's a huge gap. There is no way this thing is making any kind of compression with that kind of ring gap. But those rubber O-rings are definitely doing most of the sealing. That was a lot simpler than I thought it was gonna be. Yeah, there really wasn't much damage. I was expecting to see more damage, but I did predict that the compression was a problem because I could tell the way the engine started off strong, and then after subsequent dyno runs, it just got weaker and weaker. And that to me, there's something that's wearing over time from one run to the next, and sure enough, I feel like they tried to do like a full-size engine design in this small engine with the piston rings, but some things just don't scale down very well, and piston rings are one of them. If you want to see how piston rings work, check out a channel called New Mind. I'll put a link to that video in the description. It was really interesting because he went into the science behind how piston rings work, and if you compare like the science compared to how these piston rings are working here, I don't really think those are doing a very good job. I think that rubber O-ring is doing most of the work. I'm gonna try to come up with a better design for this. I'm also gonna come up with a better idea for this head gasket. I'm not really a fan of using these like paper gaskets as head gaskets. I think whoever machined this engine did a great job. Whoever designed it, maybe not so much. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'll see you in the next one. I was just gonna move on to the Harley video next, but a lot of people asked to see this, so here it is.